Hi, my name is Mark.
Who are you?
One of my subscribers, Dr. Disease, who's actually a good friend of mine and jazz enthusiast, left a suggestion for a video asking for me to explain to you guys the videos by Dirty Loops.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
And if by some reason you're aware of my content and are not aware of the content from the guys at Dirty Loops,
It's not possible.
No.
I highly suggest you go check them out. They do these crazy reharmonizations of popular songs, and they are really good. They seriously aren't one of those channels that only musicians can appreciate. Getting back to Doctor's request, initially I thought, well, that's a really awesome concept for a video. But then I started to notice lots of other YouTubers and awesome content creators, much bigger than I am, had already made a video about it. So in this video, I'll kinda explain what they're doing, how they do their reharmonizations, but I'll use this one mainly as a starting point to talk to you guys about something I usually mention to my students and fellow musicians.
Boring.
Which is, as I probably read in the title, music is kinda like food. What? I know what many of you are probably thinking by now.
Oh yeah, of course he's comparing music to food. Music is an art, food is an art. He could have compared music to painting or sculpting and he didn't. Let's leave a dislike on this video and ask him to kill himself. Yay!
Please don't. Be nice. And yes, since both of these things are different art styles always have similarities between them that make them seem very similar. But there's a bigger argument to my statement that I want to get out. And yes, I could have used painting or drawing to compare music to. But here's the thing, not everyone is as prone to painting or drawing as they are to food. And that brings me to my first argument. Different people like different food and different music.
Sherlock.
If you have a friend, unlike me,
All around me are familiar faces.
if you're talking about music or food, you may like many of the same things, but there are definitely songs and genres of music that you like that your friend may not like as much, or may not like at all. And the same thing with food. You may really like some kind of dish, and your friend can completely dislike it. In a certain way, both of these are extremely personal.
It's actually quite nice. Really nice.
My second little argument thingy is that most people end up liking genres of music that are more present in their societies and that they listen throughout their lives, especially in their childhood. Well, the same thing with food. Most people's favorite dish is either a dish they've had throughout their childhood, maybe cooked by one of their parents, or something that's really common in their society. As a third argument, you may have a favorite chef.
You fucking donkey!
Or a favorite dish. Or as most of us, you really like your mom's cooking. But I think we can all agree that our favorite chefs or our parents' cooking aren't perfect. There are dishes they make that we either don't like as much or really don't like. Or maybe our mom, for instance, can cook really well, but when it comes to, I don't know, Japanese cooking, she isn't as capable. Well, in music, the same thing has probably happened to most of you as it has to me, which is to really like an artist or a band, then they're releasing a song or an album that you don't really like. You may love their previous work, but don't really liking the stuff that they release right now. Finally, and only because I think it's really relevant to talk about this, let's say for instance that you've never had boiled salmon, and your mom cooks you boiled salmon. You taste it and you don't really like the flavor or whatever it is. You don't like the dish.
It's not even pink. It's raw. Raw.
That doesn't mean you won't like boiled salmon cooked by someone else, right? Not liking your mom's cooked salmon dish doesn't mean you dislike every single one of her fish dishes. It also doesn't mean you completely dislike salmon, and it definitely doesn't mean you don't like every single type of fish.
He's right. Do you know that?
Now that I think about it, it may seem like I'm just ranting about my mother's boiled salmon dish, but that's not really a thing. Mom, when you're watching, this is not aimed at you, but you could up the soup game a little bit. But yeah, this happens in music a lot of times. Someone listening to a song, not really liking it, and judge every single piece of work of that artist without even listening to their other songs.
Yeah, this song sucks, so the artist probably sucks as well. Because that song of theirs sucks.
Like, what the fuck, man? Come on. Worse than that is hearing an artist's song, not liking the song, and then judge that entire genre just listening to that one song. I'm not an outrageous fan of Latin music, but I've heard the argument,
Oh, you like Latin music, you Despacito fanboy? Latin music sucks because Despacito sucks.
I mean, I'm not a particular fan of Latin music, and I'm certainly not an expert of it, so I'm not going to judge Latin music just because I don't like Despacito.
Despacito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito.
Come on, that's like saying, yeah, I don't like sushi, so I don't like Japanese food. There are countless of other kind of generic examples, but for now, let's stick with these.
Oh, well, what if I said, well, if you... Yeah.
One thing I really like about food and music is that sometimes there are things you think, yeah, that ain't gonna work. Those two things are completely opposites of each other. Just like in music, you can have this really easy song with just a couple of chords, nothing too crazy about it, and having a crazy guitar solo. That brings us to the juicy stuff you've probably been waiting for. Yes, the covers from the guys at Dirty Loops are like French fries and ice cream.
Whoa, what?
Let me explain. Before we proceed, I just want to say that I'm not really a fan of dipping your fries in ice cream, but I thought this would be the most suitable example. Most people have had meals at different fast food establishments, and they've tried, mostly as a silly kind of experiment, to dip their fries in their ice cream. Which, if you haven't done it, and I can feel your thoughts on this one, is something that sounds completely crazy.
That is insanity!
I mean, debating whether you should dip your fries in ketchup or in mayo, or mix the two of them together is one thing. But dipping fries on ice cream? That's completely crazy. That probably echoes a recipe for disaster. But let's address it this way. Why are the covers of Dirty Loops like fries and ice cream? You've probably heard their covers, and you don't think they echo a recipe for disaster, right? For starters, just like fries and ice cream, they take pop songs and really out-of-the-box reharmonizations. On one side, super popular songs are made to not get out of your head. They're made to be easy to listen, and are, sadly many times, pretty generic.
Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? It's so frickin' good. Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? If you haven't, then I think you should.
While reharmonizations, which I think I can say are jazz-inspired,
That sweet, luscious jazz.
and jazz itself is, sadly, not really a popular kind of genre anymore, already constitute themselves as the complete opposite. And talking about Dirty Loops in particular, those crazy chords and substitutions and weird time signatures are something that, since they're not as popular anymore, are much harder to get in people's heads. And I tried talking to people that are fans from the both sides of the equation, and they mostly agree that when listening for the first time, it can sound pretty crazy. Not necessarily bad, just kind of completely out there, which kind of reminds us of dipping fries in ice cream.
Say what?
Of course, it depends on the context and the person we're talking about. If you're asking yourself how they do it, it's basically keeping the same melody, but switching the chords for different inversions or substitutions, and it's mostly a creative job. If you didn't understand a thing of what I said just now, I have a video about it that I think you should check out in the cards.
Sell out.
Let me just give you this example. I have this melody around D major. If I tried to make a song out of it, the next step would be to add chords under that melody. And making this really quick, again, you can check that video of mine.
Sell out.
Since we're in D major and the melody sounds like this, the most obvious chords would be D major and B minor. Let's suppose that's my song. If I wanted to reharmonize it, I could do, for instance, a substitution, and I could trade that D major chord for a B minor 7 chord, which is basically the same chord, just switching the bass note. It's like D major over B. And the same thing for that B minor. If I wanted to do a substitution, I could do, instead of B minor, I could do G major 7. Again, it's pretty much the same chord with a different note on the bass. And right there, I would have a reharmonization of the original song. Again, check that video of mine if you want a more in-depth explanation, but let's just keep it this way. If I want it to sound more out of the box and kind of crazy, you can think of it like this. Every note you play can be played against any chord, but it helps to have that melody note in the chord. By that line of thought, every chord I play that has the note D, because D is the first note of my melody, will work on the start of that melody. And deciding if a chord works or not is completely subjective. But just as a simple example here, I have the same melody, and I decided to switch the original D major chord and B minor chord D major chord for a B flat major 7, and B minor chord with a B half diminished chord, or minor 7 flat 5 chord. After going through that, there's a good chance you didn't like some of my reharmonizations, or even some of Dirty Loops' reharmonizations.
I mean, what is wrong with you?
And if that happens a lot, or you think to yourself that all of these reharmonizations and songs don't really sound that good, I suggest you think about this. Do you usually listen to this type of music? If you do, then perhaps those songs aren't the best suited for your tastes. And that's okay, you just gotta keep looking. Using the food analogy again, just because you've tasted a couple of burgers and you didn't really like any of them, that doesn't mean you won't find a burger that you'll like, or that you dislike every single burger. If you realize that you don't really listen to this type of music, it kinda makes sense that you don't really like any of these reharmonizations. Again, with the food analogies, there are a bunch of countries that eat bugs, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, there are also a ton of countries that don't eat bugs. And is eating bugs a bad thing? No. If you were born in a country that eats bugs, or you've lived there for most of your life, eating bugs, it's not strange to you at all. It's just something that used to happen already when you were born. But for those outside of those countries, it's not really a normal thing. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, it's simply not common. But getting back to Dirty Loops and the food analogies before we kick off, I want to throw you guys this idea again, because I think it's really important to talk about it. And it's something that I think musicians and composers, and chefs for this matter, many times forget about. I have touched on this subject on previous videos that I think you should check out if you're interested in. Again, they'll be in the cards.
I hate you, sellout.
We talked about playing any melody note over any chord, and doing it basically because we can. But the question here isn't really can we, but more should we. What's the meaning of adding a crazy chord to a song or a melody if you don't really like the sound of that chord? Why add tons of salt and or spices to then taste it and not liking the flavor? What I want you to understand is when it comes to these creative decisions, don't do it because people think that's cool. Don't do it because people tell you so. Don't compose this super out there chord progression just because you can. In fact, I could bet you that the crazy things added to the covers from the guys at Dirty Loops aren't just random chords for the sake of randomness. I mean, sure, sometimes they can kind of randomize the chord they pick to a song, but they don't do it just because they can. They do it because they enjoy the sound of those chords. They enjoy that flavor. They aren't random just for the sake of randomness. Hey, what about playing this B flat major 7 flat 13 over the C minor 7 arpeggio? Like, just because. And that's fine really, but I can guarantee you, if they don't like the sound of that melody over that chord, they won't keep it in and they won't play it. One thing is to do it as an exercise, and I'm probably going to get an angry mob of jazz fans in the comments, but that's how I listen to a song like Giant Steps, or how I see those cooking challenges when chefs are given tons of ingredients and they have to use every single one of them, not really having a meaning or a purpose, just to see if you can. Isn't that an exercise? Again, this is just my opinion and I completely respect you having a different opinion about it.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
Summarizing this final part off, even if you're trying to be different and original, like when composing a new song or trying to come out with a new dish, don't add something completely out there and weird to be different or make it different just because. If you do want to do something crazy or different and out of the box, do it for the only reason that matters, which is you thinking that it enhances your piece.
Will you shut up?
Well, thank you for watching. This video gave me some serious hard work, and I would really appreciate you guys' support. If you liked this video, leave a like. Do you think music is like food? What did you think about the comparison between the covers from the guys at Dirty Loops and dipping fries on ice cream? Do you have any thoughts on that? Don't play stuff that you don't think means a thing. Leave a comment about it, and on what kind of videos I should make and what I can improve on.
Call somebody who cares.
I have other videos that I would love if you guys could check out, and even consider subscribing. I do guitar-related videos, lessons about music theory, improvising, songwriting, composing, film scoring. As always, I'm giving away free Skype lessons.
Are you sure about that?
And everyone can enter this giveaway. But you gotta be fast, because they are limited.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am.
If you're interested, all you have to do is subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications, follow me on Instagram, and like my Facebook page. After that, DM me on one of the social media, with screenshots, proving that you did everything mentioned before.
Oh my god, who the hell cares?
And yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so very much for watching, and cheers. Whew, that kind of left me hungry.